Hey, what's up? This is RaVaughn, and you know I got soul.
RaVaughn, we got to start off, pick up where we last left off, like we were talking off camera. Did our last interview with you in 2012, 2013 when you were at SOBs.
Ooh, yep.
You Better Be Good had just come out with Wale.
Uh-huh.
We still love that record. I don't think Best Friend was even out yet.
Nope.
And at that time, you were talking about your debut album, Love Always. A lot has happened, obviously, in between that time, but let's kind of just fill in the blanks here. Since our last conversation, you were signed to a major at that time. Like, just take us back to a young RaVaughn, signed to a major, had the singles out. Like, what was that time like for you?
It feels like it was ages ago. I feel like I was learning who I was as, not only as an artist, but just who I was as an adult, living outside of home, for the first time. And, it was an incredible experience, of course, getting to work with Ne-Yo, and just being around a bunch of, like, men that were just successful in the industry, and I'm getting to learn from, like, a male's perspective. It's not an easy industry at all. I'm sure everybody knows that. Well, maybe not everybody, but it was a great experience. My album actually never came out. My A&R, Steve Ferrer, may he rest in peace, he got sick and passed away, like, in the middle of us getting ready to put out the record. So we didn't, that wasn't the reason that we didn't put it out, but we didn't get to put it out. And I did have some really, really great songs on there that I still love now, that I still listen to, because I guess I listen to myself.
Right.
But yeah, like, that time it was a whirlwind. Sometimes I don't even remember half the things that happened because it was just so much going on and it happened so quickly. I started off doing, demos and singing on Glee and doing backgrounds for so many other people. And then it was like, I met Ne-Yo doing a demo for Lauren Allred, who used to be signed to him. And then Steve Ferreira heard my voice and was like, she needs to be signed too.
Right.
So it just happened, like, out of nowhere. I wasn't even looking to, like, put out my own music at that point. I was making good money and still living at home at the time. So I was like, I'm stacking my cheese. And so it was a whirlwind for sure.
No, for sure. And, I talked to a lot of your peers. Like, we talked to Kevin Ross recently, and we always say that time when you were, doing it, you were signed to the major, that must have been, like, to me, that's the hardest time. It was the hardest time to be an R&B artist, because it's not like it is now, where it's super eclectic. Everything's being accepted at R&B.
And then it's social media. You can put stuff out on social media on your own now. It's a lot easier. Because then sometimes when you're working with labels, there's a lot of people at labels that aren't musicians,
right.
So it's like they don't understand the artistry side of it. And of course it's a business, and business has to be taken care of. But sometimes it's a struggle, because it's like, you should do this. And it's like, well, that's not what I want to do.
Right.
And it's me as an artist, so I should be able to do what I want to do,
Yeah.
And for me, I make and sing music because I love it.
Right.
It's not about fame or, like, I just love to do it. So whether people have always asked me, like, what happened? Why are you singing background? Like, when I did when I sang with Lucky Day, they're like, why are you singing background? I'm like, do you have bills that you have to pay?
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's how I started. So it's like, I'm still doing what I love to do.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me happy.
No, for sure. But, going back to doing what you love to do, I think, especially at that time when you were signed, it was, like, uncool to be an R&B artist. Like, no one wanted to be associated with that. And you stuck true to it. But, like, how challenging was it for you at that time to try to stay true to what you believed in? And then you had labels, social media, everyone is saying, well, R&B's not in right now, you should do something else.
It was difficult, and it sucked, because it was like, well, I wasn't even trying to push to be an artist, and now here I am.
Yep.
And it's like, are you guys making this more difficult than it needs to be? And I kind of felt like that. It was just like, let's just put out some music, and that's what Steve Ferreira wanted to do.
Right.
He was like, let's not worry about what's going to be on what's going to be played on the radio, or like the numbers that it's getting. Let's just make classic music. And Adele was doing that at the time, and it was just like, she's not out in the clubs, her songs are not necessarily played in like the clubs and like the popular spots, but she was super successful, and that's what he wanted to do with me in the R&B lane. But at that time, it's just like you said, it wasn't a cool thing to be an R&B artist. And now it's like, you think about Kenyon, he's a good friend of mine.
For sure.
And he is like taking off, who used to sing with Justin.
Yeah.
And now he's doing his own thing, and I'm super excited for him to see like all the work and stuff that he has been doing, and the success that he's having now, because his voice is incredible. He's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like, I mean, he went through the same thing, you know, like you sing in background for other people, and then it's like, I'm gonna put some music out, and it's kind of like, it's like a slow grind, it's a slow build. People think, oh, you came out of nowhere, and it's like, no, I've been doing this for a long time. You just hadn't heard of me yet.
Right. But I think what's crazy is even through that period where, you know, we may have all felt like R&B was being put on the back burner. Like, we posted Best Friend, your single, on our page not too long ago, and you know, I personally love that song. I've loved it since it came out. But, like, just to see the reception it got from R&B fans in general, it's not the biggest song on the charts, but, like, I looked at all the comments, and everyone loves that song still. Like, that must have surprised you, too.
I was super shocked. Like, wait a minute. There's a whole bunch of comments like, oh, I still listen to this song.
Yeah.
What happened to this? Like, how come she didn't put out more music and all that? So it was really, really, like, awesome to see. I called my best friend, like, this got way more response than I thought it was going to get. So, and then it was like that song didn't, in my opinion, do as well as Better Be Good, because it was at the end of, like, when I was getting ready to leave Columbia. And so it was like my sister, I had a session with Babyface.
Yeah.
A completely different song. My sister came to the session, and she has friends with Chris Riddick-Tynes, and so he was like, oh, we're about to go work. Me and Leon are about to go work in the other room. Yeah. Why don't you come in and write something with us while they're doing this in here? And they wrote Best Friend.
Wow.
And yeah, so it was like something that my sister actually had experienced at that point in her life, and she was still in college and dealing with a lot and learning about love and friendship and all of that. And yeah, I really just connected with the song, and to know that people love that song so much, because it's so true. Like, something that a lot of people deal with. You get friend zoned, and it's like, okay, but I'm going to tell you that I'm not your friend. But yeah, so that day was awesome. And then what was crazy was Compound really didn't want me to put the song out. It was kind of like, we don't know if this is it. And I'm like, well, I'm going to go cut the song.
Yeah.
And then we'll figure it out from there. And then my sister and I actually paid for the music video.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then I took it to the label.
Yeah.
And they were like, this is great. Let's put it out.
Right. Wow. Yeah. No, that's awesome. So, you know, you talked about your transition after leaving Columbia. Like, what was that time like for you? Because, I mean, you were kind of just put into this situation to be an artist. But I'm sure you always had aspirations of being an artist, being a singer. So to go through that experience, not have your album not come out, like, that time period, was that tough for you?
Oh, absolutely. It was devastating. Because it's like, you know, this strong build, and you have like, okay, we had all this momentum, and we finished a whole bunch of songs, and it was trying to, you know, figure out, like, putting things on, which song is going to go on the album, and it was finished, mixed and mastered, and then it's just like, nothing's happening. And so I literally took a break from music. You know, I had a lot of friends in the industry that were still being successful, and it wasn't that I wasn't happy for them, but it was just like, whoa, what's happening with me, and why isn't my music connecting, or why isn't it getting pushed the way the other music is getting pushed, you know? So I actually moved to Arizona and took a break for like 2 years, not doing any music, and and then a guy that I was dating at the time, he was like, he slowly encouraged me to, like, get back into it. It was like, maybe you should get some studio stuff and just have, you know, in the second room, and you can just, whenever you feel like going in there, you can go in there and play around, and I started doing it, but I didn't realize that he was kind of like slowly edging me, softly pushing me towards back to music. He's like, this is what you need to be doing, and I'm so grateful for him for that. But yeah, it was not an easy time for me. And then did I do the Tori Kelly, I think, was first?
Yeah, I think so, yep.
Yes. So I got called in by a really good friend of mine, Anthony, and just to do a couple things for Tori Kelly. And then he hit us like, hey, so Tori's getting ready to do a gospel tour. It's going to be a short run. This is her first time having singers. Would you be interested? I'm like, yeah, sign me up. And so I went out to do that. And at first, I'm all over the place. I had a conversation with my friend Jade Nova, and she told me, she was like, you know what? She's like, because I was like, what are people going to think? You know, I had music out, I took a break, and now I'm singing background for somebody. What are people going to think? And the people are going to look at me like, oh, she's had to go back to background or whatever. And she was like, who cares what they think? Are you happy? What are you doing? Is this something that is making you happy? And I was like, you know what? You're effing right. Like, it doesn't matter. And that's when I was just like, you know, I got bills to pay too, and I'm getting paid to do what I love to do. It doesn't matter if I'm in the front or not. And even on the tour with Tori, like, she highlighted the singers as well, and so we got a lot of love on the tour
for sure
for that. And then right after that, I got called in to audition for the play with Tyler Perry.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be like his final, I think.
Right.
If he says it's his final Medea play.
Okay.
But you know how that goes. He
We'll
might
see.
pop back. He might bring Medea back one day. But yeah, it was supposed to be his final stage play, and we went out for I think like 5 months, and then we took a little break. We went out for a second leg on that tour, which was incredible, just to be on stage with Tyler Perry, and then not coincidentally, but my vocal coach was in the play as well. And I got to be on stage with her, which is Cassie Davis, and which was super fun because she's been my vocal coach since I was about maybe 10, 11-ish.
Right.
Yeah, so getting to do that and get back onto stage because I started in musical theater.
Of course.
So getting to do that was like, okay, I'm getting back in the swing of it. I'm starting to enjoy it and have fun with everything again. And the pandemic hit.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Excuse me. And so it kind of like, of course, halted everything.
Yes.
And it was just like, okay, well, what are we doing? I moved to Atlanta, and I was just like, I started writing with a couple of different producers. One of the girls that was in the play with me, we just clicked, and Ashley Gillum. We had our own fun during the pandemic, you know. We just go to a house and just write and record with ourselves, and she would record us, I would record us, you know, and so it was a very interesting time, of course. Everybody was dealing with a lot because mentally you're dealing with a whole bunch of things, you know, during that time. But we got through it, and then I got a call to go out with Lizzo.
Wow!
And so after that, excuse me, things just kind of rolled right in after that. So I was out with Lizzo for like a year, almost a year, just under a year.
Okay.
And I had an incredible experience being on that tour, and like just her, I learned a lot from her, just like being as positive as she is.
Yeah.
And to see the amount of people that she was impacting, and every night, like we had a crazy schedule. We had shows like back to back a lot of times.
Right.
And but it was just like even like emotional to be on stage, and there's people like making signs like, you know, like you saved my life, like you helped me heal from mental illness, or you let me come out to my parents, or whatever. Like people were able to just be in their truth, and it was just like a party every night on stage.
Wow.
So that was an awesome experience. And then I got off of that, did a couple things on The Voice. I sang on The Voice. I filled in for a couple of like the house band singers, and which was awesome, getting to sing behind like new artists and like getting to see how they perform and all that. I take bits and pieces of, you know, I take lessons from everything that I do. I'm just like, what can I learn from this? What would I do, or would I not do?
Right.
And then literally I got off the road with Lizzo maybe, I think that was like the very end of June or July.
Right.
And 2 months later, Adam Blackstone called me like, hey, I need you to fill in for somebody to sing with Justin.
Wow.
And I was just filling in, so I thought.
Yeah.
And then he had some one-offs coming up, and they were like, hey, would you be available for like 6 more shows? I looked at my schedule, I'm like, yep, I'm available.
Right.
And then it was like, hey, so the team likes you, he likes you, would you like to go on the tour? I was like, with Justin Timberlake? Absolutely.
For sure.
So yeah, and it's been an incredible ride. We've had a crazy schedule. We've been doing a bunch of one-offs. We did, you know, he did his one-night-only shows.
Right, yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. Just going, and like people had to literally, people were like, can you get tickets? I'm like, we don't get tickets. It's literally free.
Right.
So you got to just submit and hope that you would get a ticket. And I'm like, wow, people would like go out, like people flew in to certain cities not knowing if they had a ticket yet, because I think we found out the day before the show. Yeah. And so, it was awesome, but I'm super excited about this tour. The show is about to be incredible. Right. We've been in rehearsals for the last, more than 3 weeks, but we came here to rehearse for 3 weeks. But before that, we were in LA rehearsing for like 3 or 4 weeks. Wow. So just putting the show together, and we have another rehearsal today.
Right.
But yeah, I'm really excited about this. This is like, and he's awesome. The whole entire team is like awesome. It just feels like family, and that's what makes it fun. You know, because it's like, you know, you're in and out on the road, and you're in and out of hotels and getting on planes or buses, and it can be tiring. You miss things from, you know, at home, like family. I'm very close with my family. there's like events and stuff that I'm like, oh, I have so much FOMO. I'm like, you guys are all together. I FaceTime them, and it's like, oh, I wish I was there, but I am doing what I love,
Right.
so I'm grateful. But being around people that are supportive of you and love you and are just like actually good people is awesome.
Right. No, that's awesome, and can't wait to see what this tour brings. But RaVaughn, I really want to take it back to that transitional period from you once you left Columbia. I know at that time Ne-Yo was still featuring you on records, but I know at that time you had kind of just been done with music as well. Like, did that help at all, or just to be on Ne-Yo records as well, or was it just something you had to figure out on your own?
I mean, it was something that I definitely had to figure out on my own.
Yeah.
I mean, some of those records that we had already done, and then he put some out.
Right.
And it was cool because it was like, okay, it's like some music out, but it wasn't. It was something that I had to figure out on my own. You know, I needed that break. And I remember Ne-Yo told me when I first met him, and I remember thinking he was crazy.
Right.
He told me, he's like, there's going to be a time at some point in this journey of yours on the music side that you're not going to like it.
Right.
And I was like, I'll never not like music.
Right.
Like, I'll never not like it. Like, you just don't know me.
Right.
And he was like, when you get to that point, come talk to me. And I got to that point, and it was just like, he's like, yeah, sometimes you have to step away.
Right.
Or, because sometimes pushing through it can just mess you up mentally, like trying to get through it without talking about it or whatever. So I literally had to just figure it out on my own. And at one point I was just like, I don't know if I want to do music. But then I was like, well, what else are you doing? This is what you were here for anyway,
Right.
Music is my passion. And I appreciated like Ne-Yo putting those songs out in between and all that. But it was like, it didn't really help for me personally, like on that side of like, okay, now I want to get back into the music thing. It didn't push me that way. It was like, okay, this is awesome. This is cool. And I'm grateful that he's still using my voice on the record and take me off and get somebody else on it. Which a lot of people do that.
Right.
But so it was just me taking a break and sitting back and being like, all right, what is it? Who do I want to be? Like, how do I want to represent myself as an artist?
Right. Now, fast forward to the future now, or to the present, of course. You're doing background, you're on tour. But I know you're also putting out music on the side as well. Like one song that really stood out to us, a couple years old now, is the record Water. That kind of came out of nowhere because we're like, okay, RaVaughon's dropping music again. Like, kind of talk about your plans with releasing your own music. I know you're just, like, I see you on Instagram Live at times, and you're in the studio, you're still recording. So just talk about that aspect of your career.
When we did Water, it was before the pandemic, huh?
Yeah.
But it was with one of the producers that I was working with in Atlanta during the pandemic. But it was just like, I didn't necessarily write it for me. Yeah. It was like something that I was like feeling, and I was just like, I'm just going to write a record. We're going to get in and record it. I don't know what we're going to do with it. And I want to say I feel like maybe I was on the Tyler tour when we put that out. And I remember the producer called me like, this song is just great. I'm just going to put it up if you're cool with it. And I was like, wow, okay. And that's how that happened. And so lately I haven't been like focused on just like myself, of course. But I've gotten in the studio with like Israel Houghton, and who's a really good friend of mine. He's like family. He's like a brother to me. Right. And Eric Dawkins, and we wrote a couple things. Wow. We haven't put anything out. We didn't put those songs out yet, but we wrote some stuff that I really, really love. That hopefully I will get to put out soon.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Eric Dawkins.
Huh?
You can't go wrong with him.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And he's great too. So I'm really excited about those songs and hopefully getting in soon. I know that I'll probably do a lot of stuff while I'm on the road, which is awesome. I can write and record when we have days off and downtime. So I'll definitely do that. Don't have like a date of when I'll be putting out new music. It might be next week. I might surprise myself. Right. And that's the beauty of the industry now, where you can just put some music out if you want to. It's not like you have to be with a label to get a push. It's like if people connect with it, it's going to go. Yeah.
No, that's super cool. And, you know, the one thing I've always admired about you is that you're willing to go into different ventures, but you still want to be in music, right? Yeah. You're singing demos. You were signed to a major. Now you're on tour with Justin Timberlake. Like, I know you talked about the bills aspect of it, but I think there's a deep love for music in order for someone to have to explore all avenues of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, like I said, I started in musical theater, so it's like all those dancing, singing, and acting has always been something that I've always loved to do. Music, of course, was my absolute passion. When I think I said it in my interview with you last time. the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill is when I was like, oh, I want to focus on this.
Right.
So I'm super excited about what's coming. I feel like being on the tour now is really going to help with putting my music out, or just inspiring me to like create more music. And because this album is incredible.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, Justin, yes. And doing these songs and performing them and seeing him in his element and enjoying himself is incredible. So I'm excited to be a part of this team and to work on my own thing. Right.
Being on tour with, Lizzo and Justin Timberlake, all these big artists, like, I know you can take away from them on the stage, but do you feel like what kind of things do you take away from being on the road with them musically? Like, is there anything that inspires you there?
For sure. I mean, just based on like what I said about Lizzo being on stage, and like her music is like true to her. She said that she wrote a lot of her stuff during that album during the pandemic. Yeah. And if you listen to like the words, it's like, whoa, I really connect with some of this stuff, and that's what it's about. It's less about, for me, putting out music that is just catchy, or what's going right now. I'm like I still live in that Steve Ferreira lane of make classic music, because like you think about like Miseducation right now. When did she make more? She did like an album, like a live album right after that.
Yeah, that was like a year
But I mean,
later.
right now she can tour with Miseducation, and that was 20 plus years ago. So it's just like those kind of things are what I'm after. I want longevity. I don't want to be like, okay, now RaVaughn put out music and it's hot right now, and then nobody cares about it in 2 months. Yeah. And that's a lot of what I take from Lizzo and from Justin. We had a conversation, and he was just saying, like a lot of times it's like, okay, we got to do this, we got to do it this way because this is what's working right now. And he's like, this is the first time that he's able to sit back and be like, I'm doing this how I want to do it. Wow. And and I think that's what's most important. I think that's when you can really enjoy yourself, because it's like, I'm doing what I want to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, that's dope. Let's touch on this Justin Timberlake tour, of course. And there's a lot that comes with it, right? You were on the Tiny Desk, you're on Jimmy Fallon, a lot of cool experiences. But like, what kind of goes into being on this tour, in your role, and just watching it all unfold? Like, just talk about the grind there.
Well, a whole lot of rehearsals. Yeah. For sure. And those are super awesome. I actually did a Tiny Desk before we did this Tiny Desk. I did a Tiny Desk during the pandemic. Okay. With Giveon, but it was a home session. That's right. So it was like, we were in a warehouse. Everybody had to get tested before we could go into the warehouse, before we could do anything. And so actually getting to be at NPR was an incredible experience. And yeah, with just a lot of rehearsals, and Justin his songs are so wordy. If anybody ever paid attention to it. Yeah. So it's really tested my memory game, because it's like you got to remember a whole bunch of lyrics, all the parts. Right. But when the songs are good, it makes it way easier, because it's like, oh, I love this song. And then I could, right. When we first heard Sanctified before the album came out, of course, we had to learn some of the songs before. I was like, how did they come up with this? Because this song is so wordy, but it's so good. Yeah. So it was more like, all right, let's dive in and get to it. So like, there are times when we'll break down, just the singers will go into a room and we learn, our parts and the lyric, and then we'll get in with the band and work with them. And it's been a lot of hard work, but it's fun, because like I said, I love the people that are there. So it's like, we're tired by the end of the night, but it's like, all right, but getting on stage and being up on stage with so many amazing musicians. Right. Everybody has their own accolades, as an artist themselves, as musicians. And I'm just excited to be a part of that kind of team. Now it's like, I'm like, I'm on stage with Justin Timberlake and all these dope musicians, amazing dancers, and I feel like, okay, I'm here, so I'm supposed to be here. I'm doing the right thing. Right. And so I'm super excited about the tour. We're going to be out for a long time. Yeah, for sure. We get to go overseas, which will be super fun. Yeah. And then we come back here to the States again and do it all over again. So. Wow. But yeah, we just have, and then it's like sometimes it changes, and, like we're going to add this song, we're going to take this song out. And it's like, why are we taking this song out? It's funny, when we did Tiny Desk, people hit me up like, I think we didn't do Cry Me a River. Like, how could he not do that song? And it's just like, there's so many songs that he wanted to do, but it's just like, no time. You only get 12 to 15 minutes or something like that. Yeah. And so it's like, when you have a huge catalog, it's hard to make those decisions. So that's right. Even in like doing the tour, it's like you can only have, do so many songs without making the tour like extra long, the show extra long. So yeah, I'm excited to see the people that come out and like how they love the show, because it is awesome. No,
for sure. And we're looking forward to hearing you there as well. Yes. I think what's really cool is when we look back at your history, you know, you were talking about how you started off doing demos, and a lot of fans actually discovered you through that. They may not have known it was you at the time, because, you know, social media wasn't as poppin' as it is now, but when everyone starts connecting the dots, it's like you've been able to create a following in that way too. Kind of
accidentally, because you know, like some of those songs will get leaked.
Yeah.
And then like somebody will be like, I heard you on this song, and I'm like, what song? And I did so many demos throughout the course of so many years. It was like I didn't always remember all the songs. Like you go in a studio, and I don't, you know, like you learn the song right there, you get the lyric right there, I'm singing it right on the spot. So like when I walk away from it, I don't remember it.
Right.
And so it's like, wait, this is me. Oh yeah, I think I remember this song, or I remember doing this session. And then some songs I'm like, I don't even remember singing this. There's a song that's on YouTube that everybody thinks is me, and it is not me.
No?
It's forget the name of the song.
But I think I know what you're talking about.
It's like Nowhere or something.
No.
I forget the name of the
Neo
song.
Record?
No. It's nope. I didn't, and it's not even me singing it. It's like
oh, that's funny.
And then they thought it was like Carrie Hilson. I'm like, y'all.
Oh, I know what's and then
like
I know
Promise
exactly
in the Dark, everybody thought it was Carrie Hilson, and that one is me.
Yeah.
I think she even commented like, "This is not me, guys." But yeah, it's like I was able to create a following kind of a little bit on accident through that lane, but I'm very grateful for that. And then for people to know my voice, it's like really cool. You know, like, how did you know it was me? You know, people are like, oh, you have a distinct voice. But I mean, I love to do, and I still do love to do backgrounds and stacking vocals and all that. Like, that's like the old school, like, and I still love all of that. Like, give me all the parts, all the harmonies.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So, RaVaughn, just want to wrap this up and thank you, of course, for your time.
No, thank you for reaching out.
No,
I'm so glad that I didn't know you were here, so I'm so glad. I was super excited.
No, for sure, because here's the thing, right? Like, as I was telling you earlier, we kind of got introduced to each other through Neo. He kind of put us on to you, linked us up with, you know, your manager at the time, and we kind of got this whole thing going. And throughout the years, a lot of artists come and go, and there's times where we're doing favors for the label, just a favor for a favor. But the fact that we still want to interview you, we still want to get to know what you've been up to, I think that speaks a lot to you and your talent. So I definitely want you to recognize that, and also just to thank you for always supporting us. I know, you know, R&B is tough, right? Like, the support's not always there, so it takes all of us to collectively do this. And I always want to thank people like yourself. Kevin Ross is another one. Ro James, like that whole collective group that you guys, you know, you guys all came up together. And I always say it's the hardest time to be an R&B artist at that time, but you guys stuck it out.
I mean, and that goes to show like the love of music. But we are grateful for people like you that continue to support us, and because that makes a huge difference. You know, like, it's one thing to put out music and feel like, oh, my friends supported it, my family supported it. They're kind of supposed to, you know.
Right.
But just to know the people that you don't have like a specific or like a direct tie to that support you, even like I literally had nothing, I didn't have anything going on, and you guys were still like supporting me. So I really I'm grateful for you guys.
For sure.
You guys have been rocking with me since the beginning.
Right. Cool. So that's all I've got, RaVaughn. Anything you'd like to add?
No, just thank you so much. Hope you guys can make it out to the tour at some point.
Yes.
Whoever's watching this, and make sure you always stay locked in when you know I got soul.